The Legend of Verena. The air was thick with tension on Asteria 9. Humans whispered in fear, their voices barely audible over the hum of defense turrets being calibrated. Mothers clutched their children, men gripped their weapons with white-knuckled hands. The Exthari were coming. And leading them was Verena. "She's a monster," one soldier muttered. "They say she crushed an entire fleet with her bare hands." "Not just a fleet," another corrected grimly. "An entire planet." Whether or not the stories were true didn't matter. The fear was real enough. But standing in the middle of the chaos, Rylan Voss felt something else. Determination. "We're not going to win this fight," he told Governor Halleck, the man leading defense. Halleck scoffed. "Then what do you suggest, Voss? Surrender?" "Negotiation." Halleck laughed bitterly. "You think you can reason with Verena? She's a killing machine, Voss. She doesn't talk, she conquers." Ryland's jaw tightened. "Then let's see if she's ever been given a reason to do otherwise." The arrival. The moment Verena's flagship entered the planet's orbit, sensors went wild. The sheer size of her vessel blotted out the stars, its jagged black surface reflecting no light. "Incoming transmission," a communications officer stammered. "Put it through," Halleck ordered, though he looked like he was about to be sick. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the war room. And there she was. Verena's form was unlike anything Rylan had seen. Her dark, obsidian-like skin shimmered faintly, her violet eyes cold and unreadable. Her armor, made from living metal, shifted with every movement, adapting to her body like a second skin. Two sharp, curved horns extended backward from her head, giving her the appearance of a war goddess carved from shadow and fire. When she spoke, her voice was smooth, but filled with something deeper. Power, authority, danger. "Humans," she said, "you know why I am here." Halleck stepped forward, clearing his throat. "If you're here to demand our surrender, you'll have to fight for it." A flicker of amusement crossed Verena's face. "It will not be a fight, it will be an execution." Rylan didn't hesitate. He stepped past Halleck, facing Verena's image directly. "Then don't fight us," he said. "Talk to us." A moment of silence. The room held its breath. Then Verena's lips curved into something close to a smirk. "Interesting." Face to face. An hour later, Verena's shuttle touched down in the human colony's center. Rylan stood alone as her ship's doors hissed open. She emerged, flanked by two heavily armored Exthari guards. They carried weapons designed to tear through entire platoons, but Verena, she carried nothing. She didn't need to. She was the weapon. As she approached, Rylan noticed the way the ground seemed to vibrate slightly under her steps. Not from her weight. She was controlling the very energy around her, bending it to her will. "You are either brave," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "or foolish human." Rylan held her gaze, maybe both. A low hum of approval rumbled from deep within her throat. "Speak," she commanded, "but choose your words carefully, they may be your last." Rylan exhaled, steadying himself. What if there was another way? Verena tilted her head slightly, watching him like a predator studying its prey. "Explain." "You're feared across the galaxy. People call you a monster." He met her eyes, unflinching. "But I don't think you started out that way." Verena's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. "You assume too much." "Maybe," Rylan took a step closer. "But if you wanted to destroy us, we'd already be dead. Instead, you came here. You came to talk." A long silence stretched between them. Then, for the first time, Verena did something unexpected. She laughed. It was quiet, almost imperceptible, but it was there. And for the first time, Rylan thought, maybe there was hope. Maybe, just maybe, the most terrifying alien in the galaxy wasn't beyond redemption. War or peace? The sky over Asteria 9 was thick with storm clouds, the distant hum of Verena's warships rumbling in the atmosphere like an approaching storm. Despite the tension in the air, Rylan stood firm, watching the alien warlord before him. "You assume too much," Verena had told him, but she had laughed. That laugh, brief as it was, told Rylan something important. She wasn't as heartless as the galaxy believed. But now came the hard part. Convincing her to change. An impossible bargain. The humans and the Xthari warriors stood at a tense distance, both sides waiting for one wrong move to trigger bloodshed. Governor Halleck and his soldiers gripped their weapons, sweat beading on their brows. "We don't have time for words, Voss," Halleck muttered. "This alien isn't here for negotiations. She's here to wipe us out." "Then let me prove you wrong," Rylan replied. He turned back to Verena, meeting her violet gaze. "Why did you really come here?" Rylan asked, his voice steady. "You could have bombed us from orbit and been done with it." Verena's gaze flickered, her jaw tightening slightly. "My people do not fear resistance," she said, "but we do not waste energy on pointless battles either." "So you think wiping out an entire colony is just a waste of energy?" Rylan pressed. "If that's the case, then why fight at all? Why continue this cycle?" Verena's expression was unreadable, but Rylan caught something, hesitation. "You do not understand, human," she said finally. "Peace is a luxury my kind has never been afforded." Rylan narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" She turned slightly, glancing at her warriors, then back at Rylan. "The Xthari do not fight for conquest," she said, her voice quieter than before. "We fight because it is the only way we survive." The words hung in the air like a weight neither side could lift. "Then what if I gave you another way?" Rylan said, his heart pounding. "The attack." Before Verena could answer, the sky erupted with fire. A deafening boom shook the ground as something massive tore through the atmosphere. Not a Xthari warship, but something else entirely. Alarms blared across as black, jagged ships descended like vultures from the sky. "Incoming hostiles," a human soldier shouted. "They're not Xthari." Verena's expression darkened. "Zyrath Syndicate," she hissed. Rylan's blood ran cold. The Zyrath Syndicate was a lawless faction, pirates, mercenaries, and warlords who thrived in the chaos between civilizations. They didn't fight for honor or survival. They fought for destruction. And they had just declared war on both humans and Xthari alike. Blinding green plasma bolts rained down from the sky, striking both human and Xthari positions. Explosions ripped through the colony, sending people scrambling for cover. "Hold your fire," Halleck yelled at his men. "Don't shoot the Xthari, they're not the enemy." For a brief moment, the war between humans and Xthari was forgotten. They had a new enemy now. Verena's warriors sprang into action without hesitation. "Xthari to me," Verena roared, summoning her soldiers as she drew two curved, glowing weapons from her belt. Rylan barely had time to react before he was shoved to the ground, as an explosion rocked the battlefield. A reluctant alliance. Amidst the chaos, Rylan saw Verena cutting through Syndicate warriors like a force of nature. Her movements were terrifyingly precise, her blades humming with energy as they sliced through armor like paper. But the Syndicate forces outnumbered them. "We need to fall back," Halleck yelled. "We can't fight them in the open." Rylan turned to Verena, who had just driven her blade through a Syndicate raider. "Can you get your people inside the colony?" Verena's eyes burned with fury, but she nodded. "We will hold the perimeter, but we cannot hold forever." "Then let's make sure we don't have to," Rylan muttered. The humans and Xthari warriors rushed into the colony, barricading the entrances as the Syndicate forces pushed forward. For the first time, humans and Xthari fought side by side. A new understanding. As the battle raged outside, Rylan found himself beside Verena, both of them taking cover behind a crumbling wall. "Why are they attacking you?" Rylan asked between breaths. "I thought the Xthari were feared across the galaxy." Verena's jaw clenched. "They do not fear us, they profit from war, they will do anything to ensure it never ends." Rylan thought for a moment, then maybe that's the problem. Verena looked at him. "Explain." He gestured to the battlefield. "If the Syndicate thrives on war, then the only way to defeat them is to take away what they want." Verena frowned. "You mean peace?" Rylan nodded. "If we work together, humans and Xthari, we can destroy their influence, end the cycle for good." For the first time, Verena didn't have an immediate response. She was silent for a long moment before she said, "That would require trust." Rylan met her gaze. "Then let's start building it." Before she could answer, a massive explosion rocked the colony. The Syndicate had breached the walls. The final battle was about to begin. The cost of trust. The colony walls shuddered under the force of another explosion, sending metal and debris raining down on the soldiers inside. The syndicate had broken through. "Fall back," Governor Halleck shouted, voice barely rising above the chaos. Humans and Xthari warriors retreated through the ruined corridors of the settlement, plasma fire streaking past them. The syndicate raiders poured in like a tidal wave, their jagged weapons glowing sickly green in the dim light. "We're running out of ground to lose," one of Halleck's men called out. "We can't hold them." Ryland turned to Verena. "You have a warship in orbit, right? Can you call for backup?" Verena's expression darkened. "No." "What? Why?" Her fingers curled into fists. "The syndicate came prepared. They deployed disruptor fields. Our fleet is blind. We are alone in this fight." Ryland's heart sank. There would be no reinforcements. "A desperate plan." Verena scanned the battlefield, assessing their dwindling options. "The syndicate is not reckless," she said. "They will have a commander nearby, kill the head, and the body will falter." Ryland swallowed hard. "You're saying we need to assassinate their leader?" "Yes. And where exactly is this leader?" Verena's eyes flickered toward the far end of the battlefield, where a tall figure in heavy black armor stood, overseeing the carnage. "There." Ryland's stomach twisted. The Xyrath Syndicate commander, Velker Roth, was a legend in the worst possible way. A former warlord who had built his empire by leaving nothing but destruction in his wake. Taking him down was suicide. But what choice did they have? "We need a way to reach him," Ryland said. "Something to break through their lines." Verena turned to her second-in-command, a battle-scarred Xthari named Jexa. "Jexa, do we still have our demolisher?" Jexa nodded grimly. "It was damaged in the attack, but it can fire one last time before it overheats." Ryland frowned. "Demolisher." "Heavy plasma cannon," Verena explained. "It will clear a path, but we must move fast." Ryland glanced at Halleck, who had been listening. "You're seriously going along with this?" Halleck asked, disbelief in his voice. "Do you have a better idea?" Ryland shot back. Halleck let out a frustrated breath. "Fine, but if this doesn't work, we're all dead." Ryland turned back to Verena. "Then let's make sure it does." "The char. Fire the demolisher." Jexa activated the cannon, and a blinding surge of plasma tore across the battlefield, incinerating syndicate raiders in its path. "Go, go, go!" Ryland, Verena, and a small squad rushed through the opening, cutting through the scattered remnants of the syndicate forces. As they neared the command post, Ryland felt the air grow heavier, as if an invisible force was pressing down on him. Then a voice. "So the great warlord Verena fights alongside humans now." Velker Roth stepped forward, his black armor gleaming in the firelight. "How far you have fallen." "The final duel." Verena stepped in front of Ryland, her gaze locked on Velker. "This war is over, Roth," she said, drawing her twin blades. "Your time is done." Velker laughed. "You were always a fool, Verena." In a blur of motion, Velker lunged. The two warlords clashed, their weapons sparking as they met. Verena's speed was incredible, her movements sharp and precise, but Velker was just as skilled. Ryland dove for cover, watching the battle unfold. This fight would decide everything. The weight of destiny. The clash of blades rang through the air like thunder. Verena and Velker Roth moved with deadly precision, their weapons sparking as they met again and again. Every strike, every counter, every movement was a dance of war honed over years of battle. Ryland could barely follow the fight. "She's fast, but he's stronger." Velker's strikes came with crushing force, each one capable of shattering armor and breaking bones. Verena relied on speed and agility, twisting and dodging just before the killing blow could land. But it wasn't enough. "You are weak, Verena," Velker snarled as he swung his massive blade. "You've let sentiment cloud your judgment." His sword slammed down with the force of a meteor. Verena barely dodged in time, rolling to the side as the impact cracked the ground beneath her. Velker was winning. Ryland's gamble. From his cover behind a collapsed structure, Ryland scanned the battlefield. Syndicate raiders still swarmed the area, but the Demolisher's blast had pushed them back just long enough for the colony's defenders to regroup. If they could end this fight now, the Syndicate might break. But Verena was losing. Ryland's pulse pounded in his ears as he reached for his rifle. "I have to do something." "No," Governor Halleck hissed from behind him. "Stay out of it, this is her fight." Ryland clenched his teeth. "If she dies, we all die." Before Halleck could stop him, Ryland broke into a sprint. Straight toward the fight. The fall of a warlord. Verena ducked low, barely evading another of Velker's crushing swings. She was breathing hard now, slower. Velker saw the weakness. "Pathetic." He feinted left, then spun, slamming the hilt of his blade into Verena's ribs. The impact sent her flying across the battlefield, her body hitting the ground hard. She didn't get up. Ryland's stomach dropped. "No." Velker stalked toward her, his blade raised for the final blow. "It ends now, Verena." Ryland didn't think. He fired. The plasma bolt struck Velker's shoulder, staggering him. It wasn't enough to kill him. But it was enough. Because Verena moved. With a roar, she surged upward, her blade flashing in the firelight. She struck deep, driving her weapon straight through Velker's chest. The warlord's eyes widened in shock. He stumbled, his massive form collapsing to the ground. He was dead. Silence fell over the battlefield. The Syndicate forces, seeing their leader slain, hesitated. Then, one by one, they began to retreat. The battle was over. A fragile alliance. Ryland rushed to Verena's side as she staggered, blood seeping from the wound on her ribs. "Are you?" "I will live," she interrupted, breathing heavily, "thanks to you." Ryland swallowed hard. "I had to." Verena studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Across the battlefield, humans and Exthari stood side by side, watching as the Syndicate raiders fled into the night. There was no more war between them. Only possibility. The price of peace. The battlefield was eerily silent. The Xyrath Syndicate had retreated into the night, leaving behind smoldering wreckage and the bodies of those who had fallen. The air was thick with the scent of burnt metal and plasma residue. Ryland helped Verena to her feet, her breathing still heavy from the fight. Despite the pain in her ribs, she stood tall, a warrior victorious but not unscathed. Governor Halleck approached cautiously, his expression unreadable. "You actually did it," he said. "You killed Velker Roth." Verena glanced at the fallen warlord's lifeless body. He was a tyrant. His reign had to end. Halleck exhaled, rubbing his temples. "And now, what happens next?" "That depends on you," Verena said. The fragile negotiations. The survivors of the colony gathered in the ruined courtyard, humans and Exthari standing side by side. Despite the battle they had just fought together, there was still an uneasy tension between them. Verena turned to Ryland. "This is where the real war begins, not with weapons but with words." He nodded. "If we want peace, we have to build it ourselves." Verena stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of the crowd. "This war between our species was built on fear and lies," she said. "But tonight we fought together and we survived together. The truth is clear. Our survival depends on unity, not destruction." Some of the humans murmured among themselves, uncertain. Halleck crossed his arms. "You're asking us to forget years of war." "No," Ryland said, stepping beside Verena. "We're asking you to choose something different." Silence hung over them. Then a voice spoke up. "I lost my brother in this war," an older man in the colony said. "But tonight, I saw an Exthari fight to save my life. I don't know what the future looks like, but maybe we should stop assuming it has to be written in blood." One by one, heads nodded in agreement. It wasn't a promise of peace, but it was a start. A new path. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Verena and Ryland stood atop the colony's outer wall, watching the sun rise over a world that had nearly been lost. "This is only the beginning," Verena said. Ryland nodded. "Yeah, but for the first time, I think it's a beginning worth fighting for." She turned to him, studying his face. "You changed everything, Ryland." He chuckled. "Nah, You were the most terrifying alien in the galaxy. I just gave you a reason to be something else." She smirked. "Perhaps." Epilogue: Legends Reborn. Across the galaxy, the death of Velker Roth sent shockwaves through the Syndicate. Warlords fought among themselves for dominance, their once united front collapsing into chaos. But among the stars, another story was whispered. The story of a human and an Xthari warlord standing together. A story of enemies who became allies. A story of war that turned into something greater. And just maybe, a story of peace.